Rough news for the wrestling world as CM Punk suffers a torn triceps. He's out on Raw. You could see the emotion on his face. And guys, I mean, this is really a bummer. There's no other way to put it. And unfortunately, I honestly think CM Punk's return at Survivor Series is the best it's ever going to be for him ever again.
I am really bummed for Punk, knowing him, being able to work with him. I know how much main eventing WrestleMania means to him. Um, and I wanted that for him. Like, I remember we talked about this when like he was coming back. I was just like, I want Punk to come back, to be healthy, to get this run that he deserved, and like just end his career on like a positive note. Everything seemed like it was going in such a great direction. He was, working with NXT talent. They were releasing those videos. He seemed just to be like having a great time, enjoying wrestling again, and not like thinking about all the nonsense, which, is sometimes all the noise we hear about on, social media. Everyone's just like this, that. It's just like the man just wants to wrestle, have fun, and to have that taken from him, to have it taken from us, to be able to just watch him, it's a bummer. But the good news is, listening to that promo last night, it's clear he's not done. He's coming back. When he does, he's going to fight Drew McIntyre, which could be a great program. And you know what? Maybe he comes back next year and he wins the Rumble and he gets the main event, WrestleMania. And who knows? Maybe it's against Cody Rhodes. I'm down with that.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. This was probably one of the saddest news I've heard in a very long time. Like, CM Punk is a dude that seems to have found himself, who seemed to have been exactly where he needed to be. After Survivor Series, you hear him, wrestling with the young talent, having so much fun backstage, cutting amazing promos without even having a match. And for this to just get cut short, we all got robbed of this. But I do disagree, Robin. I don't think Survivor Series was his highlight moment. I do think that what we love is guys that come back from adversity, and the passion that he gave in that promo last night. When he comes back, he's going to be just as big as he was before he left. And it's going to be an amazing experience. I'm just sad that WrestleMania definitely took a hit, but this isn't the end of CM Punk. If anything, this just started a whole new chapter for him.
Look, people are going to be rooting for him. There's no question. And no matter what, he's so good on the mic, he can carve out a lane for him. But my concern is he was getting hurt in AEW all the time. And when I watched him in AEW, I didn't think this looked like a guy in his prime. Now, he looked fresh and happy in his WWE return. Maybe it felt like a new lease on his wrestling life. But the first match, I mean, I know he had those matches with Dominic Mysterio on the house shows, but his first televised match, he got hurt. And it's a significant injury. So I don't think it's a promise or a guarantee that Survivor Series return won't be the highlight of his new lease in the WWE. I think he's going to be back. I'm with you. I think he's going to give it a go. No question about that. But can he perform at the level he needs to consistently over a long duration of time? I mean, that's a question that he can't even answer because he's on the shelf again.
Here's my thing. We saw guys like Ric Flair wrestle into their 60s. We've seen plenty of guys who have gone way beyond what most people consider their prime. So Punk's not going to let his career end this way. He's going to come back and he's going to have a real go of it. Regardless if he got injured again, like, he's going to go out on his terms. At least I hope so, unless, obviously there's a devastating injury. But I pray that he has a chance. And listen, like, yes, the Survivor Series pop was incredible. It's not even the highlight of his career. So, like, I don't even want to like talk about it like, oh, it was the big thing. Yes, it was an amazing moment, but like, he's had unbelievable moments. That match against John Cena in Chicago will forever be to me the pinnacle of his career. Like, that was the highlight. So everything now is just like cream cheese.
It's the pipe bomb. If we're talking his greatest moment in his career, it's the pipe bomb. This is what made him the guy we know today, the guy that just said whatever he wanted with no filter. And that's what I loved about last night. Even as hurt as he was still that defiant Punk that's like, yo, I'm that same dude who went and got his ass kicked in the UFC. I'm gonna be the same dude that's gonna come back. So anybody who says my time is over, I got something waiting for you when I come back, and I can't wait for that version.
That's the good part of it. The silver lining for him, like I said about what he does on the mic, all of his most memorable moments to me have nothing to do with a match or what he did in the ring. I mean, if you're telling me what are the top 3 most memorable CM Punk moments, I'm going with the pipe bomb, like Gene said. I'm going with his AEW debut where we're all like, oh, wow, like this is serious. And I'm going with his Survivor Series return. And none of those had anything to do with what he did in the ring.
No way. You have to include him walking out against John Cena. That was like, he took the title. Everyone was like, what's going to happen? Where is he going? That was like the best.
Yeah,
You can't put that number.
The man
That's
has
like number one to me.
For sure. The man has hits, and I pray that we get to see him at WrestleMania holding up that title in the main event, because that could just be a nice ribbon on what has been a very great career for CM Punk.
Not only a very great career, Gene, a Hall of Fame career.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody. I mean, it's not that hard to get into the WWE.
Oh no, that's disrespect.
The bar is a little low for that. Now, we did discuss, and Gene mentioned it, the ramifications for WrestleMania, which have to come into play, and Seth Rollins coming out and cutting that promo that he did last night, I feel is a significant moment as far as at least buying time for WrestleMania, if not changing the plans and calling an audible for WrestleMania, because he's talking about Cody Rhodes, and he sits there and says, you want this title, not Roman's title. You don't want the Hogan title. You want the Dusty title. Trying to personalize it for Cody and make it believable that Cody would choose Seth over Roman. And it's possible, I'm not saying this is the case, but it's possible after the injury to Punk, they did have to change the plans, and they made the emergency bat phone call to The Rock to have The Rock go against Roman, and then that way you could make it believable that Cody would challenge Seth. At least it's going to leave us in suspense.
I've been chomping at the bit since you said it, because it drove me nuts. When they called that the Dusty title, get out of here. That is not the Dusty title. It will never be the Dusty title. It has no lineage beyond Seth Rollins. That title is, and this is not a shot at Seth, that title is a joke. Like, that thing was created because Roman Reigns was gone and they just needed a prop to have some matches with. The WWE title is the title. All these other ones, like the Intercontinental title, is more important than that World Heavyweight Championship. Like, give me a break. Like, first off, nobody wants to see Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins again at Mania. It has to be Cody Rhodes and Roman, and anything else will be an abject failure. I know everybody wants to see Roman and The Rock. I get it. I want to see it too, but Cody needs to finish the story, and we all know that means winning the WWE Championship against Roman Reigns.
Well, wait, hold on a second. You cannot call Roman and Rock an abject failure. I'm not.
It's abject failure.
I'm not against Cody Rhodes finishing his story. I think it would be great. He's won me over. Cody Rhodes is undeniable. I said that on the last show. But WWE is out of their minds if they have Rock and Roman in front of them and they don't put it out there. You remember, there is a universe beyond the wrestling fan, beyond the people who are following the program on a day-to-day basis. And Roman and Rock is SportsCenter. It's ESPN. It's CNN. It's everywhere in the world. It is the biggest possible match that they could put on. And if they can do it, they will do it, whether it's at WrestleMania this year, on the debut Netflix Raw, whenever the case may be, that match is happening if they can make it happen.
And that's what will happen on Netflix.
Yeah, no, Roman Rock, obviously, you cannot miss it if the opportunity is there. But let's get back to Seth Rollins, because to me, that promo, if he's never looked better than what he did last night, regardless of the fact that we all know Cody's going to choose Roman Reigns. That's the plan. But Seth, what he did last night, to me, what stuck out is we talked about this earlier, he was very grounded. And this version of Seth Rollins with, he's got the over-the-top theatrics, but that Seth Rollins was straight business. And I'm sure he feels what he was saying about Roman Reigns is what a lot of people feel. This man has not been around. And if anything, it just teased the possibility of him facing Cody. And to me, he did his job last night. Seth Rollins showed why he's probably one of the most underappreciated superstars of this generation, because you can put him anywhere. If you need him to put anyone over, if you need him to cut a great match, this dude last night to me showed why he is one of the top dogs in pro wrestling today. And I think he deserves his flowers. I love that.
I love the grounded version of Seth. A lot more than the over-the-top version of Seth. I feel like the over-the-top version of Seth is carried by the theme song a lot of times, and and that's the whole bit. But when he comes out there and he humanizes himself a little bit, like he did with his injury, like he did last night in leveling with Cody Rhodes, if you will, I think that's when he levels up, because we know what he can do when he gets inside the ropes.
Yeah. So my big question then becomes, all right, so we know Punk's out of the equation. What do you do with Seth at Mania? Now, I know some people want to see him against Cody Rhodes and then Roman Rock. For me, I want to see Seth versus Gunther. Gunther deserves to be a double champion. He has been the best wrestler for the past year. Like, give that guy everything. He's so good. He's so believable. That promo he had with Seth Rollins 2 weeks ago, where we were all like, "Oh my God, that was so good!" Like, it's easy to forget because we live in the moment of like what's happening with wrestling and like new promos and new matches every week. But like, he has earned a WrestleMania main event with everything he's done. Like, he is the most dominant IC champion of all time, and why not have him be the most dominant IC champion and world heavyweight champion as well?
Well, and I love Gunther, but this is what makes the CM Punk injury so tragic, because I still think Gunther is about a year away from being that guy. Right now, you put him in the main event right now, it's just going to feel like, okay, let's try to fill up a slot with a dude, to me, has potential of being one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. That's my ceiling for Gunther. But to push him now in a title that you just said doesn't mean anything, to me, that makes absolutely no sense, and that would be rushing. You want to make Gunther big? Put him against a guy like Reigns. Put him against a guy for the actual title that matters. But putting him in a match for the secondary championship, to me, does absolutely nothing for him, especially if we all believe that his IC title already means more than the Seth title.
Which is why I think it's important to put the title on Gunther, because Gunther made the IC title special, and he can make the World Heavyweight Championship special as well.
Well, look, I mean, WrestleMania, it's a blow when CM Punk's out. I mean, look at the attention that he received. But the roster is so deep, they can still put on an absolutely stacked card.
Is it deep, though?
Yes. We just talked about the possibility of Rock Roman. Even if it's not Rock Roman, Cody Roman is a mega match at this point. Seth and Gunther, like Seth mentioned, is a big-time match. You could do Bianca and Jade, which feels like a WrestleMania main event to me, if they don't want to build that long-term, because they've sort of flirted with the idea of them being a tag team to start. You've got Rhea against either Becky or Bayley in an Iron Man match, which they already floated out there. You've got Logan Paul. You've got Dominic Mysterio. On and on and on and on. They can still fill out the card. And this Punk injury will be an opportunity for somebody at Elimination Chamber and therefore WrestleMania to make their star even bigger.
I guess for me, like when you say the roster's stacked, yes, we by name, yes. But as far as the storyline, we got Elimination Chamber coming up. And to me, that card is not looking well right now. You don't have Brock. You don't have Seth. You don't have CM Punk. Kevin Owens just got injured. We don't know if Logan Paul is going to show up. We might not see this man until WrestleMania. I feel like WWE is going to have a really hard time to get fans invested into storylines for the next 2 months when you got a lot of their heavy hitters not being active. Or even if with Cody Rhodes, you already know the end of his story already for the next 2 months. It's going to be a lot to try to get fans to invest in. That's my only issue with everything.
I agree with that, Gene, but Rob's right. The roster is stacked. The good news about Elimination Chamber, it's on at like 4 a.m, so a lot of people aren't going to even watch it until like 2 days later or whatever, or never watch it because there might not be a ton of matches that people are like dying to see. But listen, the good news is they have a lot of time to build up storylines for Mania. They'll figure out what they want to do with Seth. I mean, I've said this before. I know you guys are very adamant Seth's going to be at Mania. Like, there is still a world where Seth doesn't recover and his knee can't hold up for a match, and they have to make a audible, and Damian Priest cashes in, takes the world title, and then, okay, now it's Damian Priest versus somebody. Like, there's just a lot of, unknowns about what is going to happen with Mania. And so, yes, I agree. Listen, the card won't be as incredible. Like, we thought like WrestleMania 40 could be like a dream WrestleMania with all these matches. It won't be that. It's gonna be worse than we want it to be. It doesn't mean it's gonna be bad. It just won't be what the expectation was.
Well, you never know. I mean, like, they could put the call into Stone Cold Steve Austin and get him to do some sort of mega match. I mean, there's all these things that could still transpire. I mean, here's the thing. This current regime of WWE has earned the benefit of the doubt. They're not perfect. No one's saying they're perfect. There are, mistakes. I still don't understand the end of SummerSlam with Jimmy Uso and Jay, who, by the way, is over as hell right now. Main event Jay Uso, another guy we didn't mention. But they have done a damn good job delivering for a long period of time. And I think the Seth promo we just talked about is evidence of it. I mean, who knows if that was planned or not? And if it wasn't, it shows that they can adjust on the fly. So I bet you, of course, the news of CM Punk is a bummer, like we said. But when we process it and they move on to the next thing, we're going to wind up just as hyped about WrestleMania. That's my bet.
No question. We always are. WrestleMania is always the biggest show of the year. It will be this year because ultimately, at the end of the day, they're still going to build it around one big match. And if that is Cody and Roman and Cody finally finishing the story, like people are going to get super invested in that. People do want Cody to win. He is the biggest babyface in the company, hands down. So the show will be fine as long as Cody Rhodes or Roman Reigns don't get injured. Knock on wood. Like that, you know what I mean? Like we're going to be just fine.
Yeah, and the other thing we mentioned it was Drew McIntyre and him coming out and challenging CM Punk or sort of rubbing it in on CM Punk what had happened to him, which is more fuel to this heel Drew McIntyre character, who Drew McIntyre right now to me is better than he's ever been. This version is more interesting. The face Drew McIntyre was always a little lame. Great in the ring, don't get me wrong, great presence, but this character is better because the bitterness is justified in a sense, but he's still doing these diabolical things you don't want to see, like going after an injured CM Punk. And another thing that's interesting about it is he's been one of the most talked about free agents. You know, the fact that his contract might be up. And they just planted the seeds for a future Punk McIntyre promo, which makes me believe that Drew is in WWE's long-term plans.
Yeah, I agree with that. I guess my big question with Drew is because I agree he's been great, and last night promo was incredible. What he did with Punk was, you know, awesome. They set up a great return feud for whenever Punk is finally cleared and healthy, whether that be SummerSlam, Survivor Series, we'll figure that out. My question though is, where does Drew fit on the WrestleMania card? Because I guess you could put Drew against Seth, but I don't know if that's a match.
Seth's already beaten him clean. How many times?
I don't know if the match I'm dying to see. So it's like, okay, so then where does he go? Like, what's his next thing? And I don't have an answer for that. I'm actually very intrigued to see what they're going to do for him.
Well, what if it is Drew and Gunther? If Seth is involved in another program, let's say Seth is involved with Cody or whatever they do with Seth, I think Drew and Gunther could be a money match.
The problem is they're both heels,
and we saw them last
like
year.
A Chad Gable or somebody to get like a babyface in there.
Let's not forget they stole the show last year. I wouldn't mind seeing it, but at the same time, they'd be going back to the well. Yeah. My problem with the whole Drew McIntyre thing is, yes, the guy can cut a promo. The guy can make you feel something, which is big, which is something he couldn't do before. But as far as the results of his matches, like he's lost a lot of big ones to the point where I'm starting to not believe in him. Like to be quite frank, yes, you put him in a program with Punk, but at the end of the day, let me ask you something. If Drew McIntyre is the first one Punk faces when he comes back, Punk's not losing that match. No one's going to take Drew seriously. Like, that's not happening. I feel like they built Drew McIntyre in a way where he's a top heel, but not really, because you don't believe he's ever going to win the big one. Yeah, you can beat up on Sami Zayn. Yeah, you can have him beat up on Jey Uso. When it comes for the title, the thing that he talks about all the time, you know, he's not the guy that WWE has proven to put the strap on.
The counter is he was.
It's kind of.
The counter is he was the champion.
He was. And he deserves credit for it. But as far as how they booked him recently, to me, it's not scary. He doesn't do it for me.
Not everybody has to be the champion. I mean, that's part of the deal too.
If you talk about the title as much as Drew has, you have to put the strap on him at some point. No,
I don't think so. I mean, I think that's part of the deep roster. I mean, we're talking about guys like McIntyre, like Sami Zayn, like Jey Uso, so on and so forth. LA Knight, who may never have that title, but are big players for the company, are guys that fans are care about and invested in, and you could put them in various storylines.
Nah, LA Knight is fans care more about LA Knight than they do with Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre isn't selling merch off the shelves. Like, no one's checking for him like that. But he's a great worker. I'll give him that. But as far as that, the buck stops there for me, at least. Like, if Drew was that guy, you could easily slot him in the main event at WrestleMania. There would be you can't put Drew in the main event at WrestleMania. You can't.
You also have to remember, and we brought this up before, but the women are such a big deal now too. You know, and we go back and you look at the War Games match, the women had the better match. You look at the Royal Rumble, the women had the better match. So now when you're going into WrestleMania, you have to start thinking of the women on equal playing field as the men as far as selling that event. Because with Rhea, with Jade, with Bianca, with Bayley, with Becky, with Io Sky, that is a big, deep roster to make marquee matches there as well. And they're the kind of matches that I think you believe could be the match of the card.
Oh, there's probably 5 to 6 on the women roster I'd put above Drew McIntyre right now. That's no question. But the topic is Drew McIntyre the best version that he's ever been? To me, that's still the eighth best guy on the male roster. That's all I'm saying. As
I'll
great as
give
he
him
is.
this though, because you got to remember, I don't know if you guys saw this, but he actually put this out on Twitter. It's basically saying CM Punk's WrestleMania main event over. And listen, that's funny. And I love that meme because it's from one of my favorite shows, The Flash. So
No, the dude is comical. He's figured out social media. The dude is entertaining. He's good, but there's still a cap with Drew.
to
But
me,
this is hilarious.
it's the
This
big
is
thing. It's like he's focusing on CM Punk, which is great. I get it. And like you can use that to eventually build. But I still fall into the category of just like, where does he go? Like, what is his next feud? What does he do going to Mania? I just don't have that answer. And I don't know if there's anyone I'm like dying to see. Because like him versus Sammy in some crazy stipulation, maybe. I don't want to see him versus Jey Uso again.
What about LA Knight?
LA Knight's got to fight AJ Styles though.
Does he at
Yeah,
WrestleMania?
for sure. They built that for so long. Like you want that to be like, unless they're gonna do LA Knight versus AJ at Elimination Chamber,
Yeah.
and then quickly turn LA Knight to Drew McIntyre, which I guess is a possibility. They're on different shows, which is also a little unique. I was like, maybe Bobby Lashley. I just don't know where it goes, and I'm like, oh, that's a great next step for Drew McIntyre. That's the real
Drew
problem.
Works best. To me, in my opinion, Drew works best in matches where there's multiple people in it. You put him in a fatal four-way for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania, you might be able to sell that, like it's Drew, Seth, Gunther, Jay, or Sammy. Put those guys in there. Then you're
interesting.
Then you got you're cooking with grease right there. So to me, that's the match where he's not as far as one-on-one, I'm not sold. But if you add him to a puzzle of other guys, I think you got something there.
Well, that's why he's perfect for Elimination Chamber coming up. I mean, they still have a lot of guys who are in, and now we don't know who's going to win that match. Before we knew CM Punk was going to win that match. So there is a level of intrigue in that. One more thing before we get out, guys, because when you pulled up Drew on screen, Sep, I saw Roman to the right. The CM Punk injury did bring up one thing for me, and that's in some ways how smart the part-time schedule with Roman really has been if you're thinking long-term. Yes, short-term you want him around, but long-term it does help prevent injury for him so that he is around for the biggest shows when you really need him.
Yes, that is fair, but to me it's still out of sight, out of mind, where like you need to be on screen and doing something so I care about you. If you're just gone and you're not doing anything, like I'm going to forget about you. Roman to me is like, so I know he's the champion, but like, he just doesn't matter to me because he's not around. There's no connection to him. You have to be on television. And even if and I hope this is a possibility, when Punk is ready to come back, you can put him on commentary. Like he's done it before. He's really good at it. And that gets him just like in the conscious of like the fans being like, Punk's back, he's with us. And then like, you could do a surprise when he is finally healthy, where he steps out of the commentary booth and, gets his revenge on Drew or something. Like being away when you're rehabbing, I understand, but like just being away to be away to save yourself, I don't love that.
Yeah, there's no positive of what happened to Roman Reigns in the last 365 days as far as being gone for this long. Yes, you could make a case Cody losing helped Cody's story, but it's completely destroyed Roman Reigns as far as his character development in the last 365 days. It's been the same run-of-the-mill match. So you got Soul Cole coming in, interfering. It's been the same. Cody is elevated. His character has grown. But as far as Roman, everyone can't wait for him to go away. You want to be away, fine, but drop the title on your way out.
Well, I don't want Roman to go away. I understand you want him to.
Well, he's away. What do you mean? You see him once every 3 months. What you mean he is away? He's part-time. What are we talking about here?
Well, we won't be gone for long. We'll be back with another episode of The Needle Wrestling later this week. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Needle Wrestling channel. Robin Lundberg, Gene Cherry, Dave Sepperson, just some friends talking some graphs.